Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This month, I continue my series on the journey through 9th edition, where I start now at the beginning of Warhammer 40K 9th edition, and do this monthly until we reach the inevitable change from 9th edition to 10th edition, most likely in 2.5 to 3 years. This month, my topic is how to pick your army, how to build and plan your army without a current edition codex. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I try and talk about scrying the future of an edition. So before I begin talking about planning your army, let me get some of my Warhammer cred out on the table. I have played 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th editions of Warhammer 40K. The only editions I have not played are 1st and 4th. For every edition, I have built at least one army. My first army was Space Wolves, way back in the glory days of 2nd edition. Fun fact! Initially, Space Wolves Wolfguard Terminators were worded that they could have one Terminator assault weapon and one Terminator heavy weapon. An unusual combo was that this meant they could have a Cyclone missile launcher, which was a heavy weapon, and an assault cannon, which was an assault weapon. That got quickly errated in a White Dwarf. That was scary for the about 2 months it was actually a thing. But, I have built Space Wolves. I have built Sisters of Battle twice. I had to sell off one Sisters army. I have built Grey Knights. And it's like, I built them once, and then they started collecting dust until a new codex came out that gave them new stuff, and thus I ended up building them kind of a second time because their points cost per model had dropped, so I had a lot of space to play with things. I have built a Vanilla Marines army, my Scarred Hydras chapter. I have built Eldar armies. I have built Tau. I'm still working on a Chaos army. I have tried to build Tyranids, but I just don't have the patience to do that many models. I want something that I can do and get out the door kind of quickly. And rolling into 9th edition, I am of course building a Blood Angels and a Necron army. At some point, I am probably going to have to start looking at an Orc army, just because. But, as you see, I've built a lot of armies. And one of the first things you have to decide when looking at building for a new edition: are you going to wait and see if your codex is one of the early ones to come out? Or are you going to go with the hope that yours isn't going to destroy too much about your army as you grab the old, still valid codex? For the Necrons and Blood Angels I am working on for this edition, I don't have to find myself worrying about that. Space Marine and Necron codexes are about to be the first out the door. And then Blood Angels are going to be... The Blood Angel Supplemental is going to be fairly short order within the next 2 months after the Space Marine Codex comes out. So, I'm covered there. I'm not going to have to worry too badly. But, what about other armies? You know, while we know the Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Death Watch, and Dark Angels are going to be out in fairly short order. What if you're playing something like Thousand Suns? Or Eldar? Or Orcs? You don't know when those codexes are coming out. So, you're probably going to want to start by picking up one of the existing codexes. If you have never built a 40k army, you're going to be needing to keep an eye on the FAQs on the Warhammer community website. These are going to help you by telling you how things need to change in that codex to work with the current rule set. The current FAQ has a number of changes. One of which, for Space Marine chapters, is it actually allows drop pods to arrive on the first turn now, as opposed to having to wait till the second turn with other tactical reserves. From there, you have to begin trying to figure out what you're going to do with your army. Now, we know that there are a lot of changes coming up to the Astartes because of what Games Workshop has previewed so far. They're going to be getting 2 wounds, both Loyalist and Heretic Astartes groups. So, I'm going to expect that because those groups are going to be having the most significant changes, Death Guard, which we know, Thousand Suns, and Chaos Space Marines are going to be among the first codexes out, are going to be among the early waves of codexes. Given what's been being announced, we have Necrons and Space Marines in October, and then we have 4 more codexes or codex supplements over the next 2 months, November and December. I'm going to be expecting that at least early on, they're going to be dropping 2 books a month. A codex and or a codex supplemental. Or, in one case at least, 2 codex supplementals in 1 month. We don't know exactly what their order is going to be, so you're going to have to play a lot of guessing. But the smart money is that anything that's going to be having significant changes to the overall unit statistics is going to be fairly early on in the edition. So, this is pretty much backed up with the fact that they've stated that they're doing the following codexes, and that the Dark Angels are going to be one of the first in probably January or February. There's going to be a Xenos Codex. Which one? We don't know. I'm kind of hoping Eldar. Just because Eldar could use a line refresh like Space Marines and Necrons are getting. But we don't know if they're actually going to be doing that far with them. Or with any faction, really. So, once you've decided what faction you're doing, and whether or not you're going to be waiting for the Codex, which is a tough decision, you then get to start figuring out what units you're going to use. And this, again, is a sort of tricky part. So let's take a moment and start talking about this. So now that you've made the decision of what you're going to do, whether you're going to wait for the Codex or not, you need to start looking at getting your miniatures. Now, I'm going to assume you've decided not to wait for the Codex, or that your Codex is going to be one of the fairly early ones out in the edition. And what I'm going to say is you have two choices for how to start. You can start piecemeal, or you can go with your faction's start collecting box. Start collecting boxes have some upsides and some downsides. The upside is they don't have a lot of options. They don't have all the options. They're set up with one set of configuration, and you're stuck using that. But they're a great way to get a bunch of models cheap. And more important, some of these start collecting boxes are the only way at this time to get certain models. For instance, the Thousand Suns start collecting is the only way at present to get Zangors with auto pistols, which is one of the core options for them for Thousand Suns Army. The Vanguard start collecting is currently the only way to get Primaris suppressors. And that's kind of a bad thing, but that's what GW has done. I mean, there are other units that the start collecting boxes are the current only way to get. Like, I think the Master of Possessions for Chaos, you can only get him through one of the Chaos start collecting boxes. But the other thing you have to really look at with them is they're not always the best choices. For some armies, they are. For others, not so much. Like, the Blood Angels one gives you a captain, a Blood Angels attack squad, and a Ball Predator. Well, that's not actually that bad. That's a good, solid core for your army. The Space Wolves one gives you a Wolf Lord, a pack of 3 Fenrisian Wolves, not 3 Fenrisian Wolves, 3 Thunder Wolves, and a Grey Hunter pack. Again, that's not that bad. And, well, the Imperial Guard one, it gets you... It's pretty much... You want to get the Imperial Guard one if you're looking to go Guard. You probably want to get a couple of them if you're wanting to go Guard. But the Thousand Sons one gives you Azek Ahriman. So, you get one, you've gotten Azek Ahriman, you've gotten some Zangors, you've gotten some Ruberic Terminators. Ruberic Marines. And you don't need another Ahriman. And so, you're not really going to get more than one. And of course, if you get it, you're pretty much locking yourself into using Ahriman as your HQ choice, as your warlord. But there's the upside that it is pretty much the cheapest way to get Ahriman, a squad of Ruberics, and Zangors. So it's good for the very start of your army. And then you're going to have to go buying everything individually. The other option is the piecemeal build. The piecemeal build is where you're going to sit down with your codex. Or you're going to sit down with someone who knows your faction. The faction you're looking to go for. And the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick a HQ and 2 troop choices. This is the core that you're going to build from. Because from this, you'll have the option to go for one more troop choice for a patrol detachment, but you don't really need to go that big. But you'll have your mandatory HQ, your mandatory troop choice, and then a second troop choice. This is because one thing that's always been the case in 40K is there are missions with objectives. You need troop choices to secure those objectives, and to hold those objectives. Especially since most codexes give an army of a given faction that is battle-forged the ability for what's commonly called objective secured, which basically means any troops in that army cannot lose control of an objective unless there are more troops units from the other side on that objective. So they work really well for, well, keeping those objectives secured for your side. Also, you're going to want a second troop choice just for the simple fact that you're going to want to be able to attack, and troops choices make a good line attack, a good basic offense to your defense. No one wins 40K by playing defense alone. This is coming from someone who used to be a very defensive player. No one wins 40K by playing defense alone. So once you've gotten your core, you get to look to expand. Now, depending on your army, it's going to determine where you're going to go next. Generally speaking, you want to add a heavy support choice for your army, and either an elites or a fast attack. Fast attacks have the benefit of they're able to, well, be fast attack. They have a tendency towards mobility, or they use assault weapons which allow them to advance and shoot. This means that they're a mobile element, so they're going to be able to move around the board quickly and target enemy units, flank them, carry them. In some cases, like Space Marine assault squads, they're going to be jumping over the board and then rushing in to give a hammer blow. Heavy support squads, they're important because you're going to be dealing with vehicles. Someone at some point is going to be having a vehicle. Heavy support are what you use to shoot vehicles. Unless, of course, you've got an assault squad with thunderhammers, and in which case you use them to assault the vehicles. But generally speaking, you want to shoot the vehicles, especially with the changes to 8th edition that allow vehicles to shoot at your units in melee. But you also want to keep an eye towards stuff your army's going to have. Stuff that's flavorful for your army. For example, my Blood Angels, I have the Assault Intercessors, the regular Intercessors I got, the Blade Guard Veterans, all the stuff in the Indominus box. Plus, like I said, a 5-man squad of regular Intercessors. But I've also picked up a squad of Inceptors. These are jump pack troops with plasma. They are fast attack, of course. But I'm not going to be using the Outriders in my Blood Angels, because Blood Angels aren't very bikey. They're very jumpy. Blood Angels, in terms of classic views, use jump packs. In fact, it's a known tactic for them, that their jump troops will deploy through what's called Deep Strike. This is a tactic commonly called the Descent of Angels. Space Wolves? I have a bunch of drop pods for my Space Wolves. This is because Space Wolves like to use drop pods, and they tend to deploy them in a 4 strong, because the streaks of them across the atmosphere as they're coming in, those trails of fire on the ceramite hulls, look like the streaks of wolf claws across the heavens. And this is called the Claws of Russ. But, every faction have their sort of thematic things. And depending on what craft world of Eldar you're going to use, you might want to have a lot of jet bikes. Or you might want to have a lot of aspect warriors. Because those are important for different craft worlds of Eldar. Tau, you're going to have fireworks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But you're probably going to have battle suits. But when you're looking at building your army, you want to, especially if your codex is one of the immediately upcoming ones, you want to keep an eye on previews. Because these previews are going to change the sort of stuff you might want to put in your army. Like, for my Blood Angels. I was going to go with 2 squads of Inceptors and a squad of Suppressors. Now, though, I kind of want to see the stats on the new Primaris Land Speeder that they're getting, the Storm Speeder. Now, the Gladiator tanks. Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting the one of those that has the twin assault cannon analogs, because that is so much like a ball predator. In fact, it means I don't have to figure out why all my all Primaris company has a ball predator, which is not crewed by Primaris Marines. But at the same time, we got that preview for the heavy intercessors. And I'm all like, I regret getting normal intercessors. I want these heavy intercessors. In fact, I'm planning to get 2 squads of them. One with their heavy rifle, and one with their standard rifle. Just because I like the thought of units that you're not going to disrupt from a objective. That units are that tough. And it means I don't have to find a justification in an all Primaris force for Terminators, because they have the main qualities I want of Terminators. Tough, and a lot of wounds. And this is how you have to look at things. You have to watch those previews. I'm going to outright say, you probably want to, if you know your codex is coming up, you're probably only going to want to build about half your army. After that, you'll wait till your codex comes out and build the other 1,000 points. But this is how I go about planning my armies. It might not be the way that works for you, but it's the way I've found works. Next month I'm hoping that I'll be able to be talking about the first new codexes of the new edition and how to look through them. So until then, I wish you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.